We got breaking news coming out of Venezuela. Heavy gunfire in Caracas. Let's roll tape. Now, could it be that this is just celebratory gunfire?
That's true.
Big celebration.
That they are so happy that Maduro is out. They are shooting anti-aircraft rounds into the air.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that before. It's a celebratory.
They're probably shooting
these are not just bullets. I mean,
probably
this
shooting
is,
at the ghost of Kiev.
I'll say this much.
that?
I don't think that it's actually the United States doing an op because the lights are on. When the U.S. went in, they just turned Caracas off. Everything was out. So
Disclose TV half an hour ago had a report. Explosions reported at Miraflores Palace in Venezuela's capital, Caracas, according to El País. So we've also got this report. We'll rope it in here. Venezuela's Caracas Stock Exchange ends the day nearly 70% higher as markets react to the U.S. capturing President Maduro.
Oh my gosh!
What we're seeing here with this gunfire, we don't know what it is, but I would say I've seen a lot of the pro-Trump, the MAGA faction, celebrating U.S. intervention. There's been a good example of this criticism we've seen is Viva Frei criticizing Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh saying, hey, if we're going to go in and take resources of our country, it's a good thing. Then Viva, of course, saying, here's a post from Matt Walsh about foreign intervention in the Middle East. It does seem, at least in my opinion, that there is an incongruence. I would describe it as there's a lot of people on the right who are celebrating this intervention despite being generally anti-intervention for the most part when it comes to the Middle East. I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think you can support this operation while opposing what we did in the Middle East. However, my point is there are some people that are clearly just saying whatever Trump does is right. And there are a lot of people more on the left saying no matter what Trump does, he's wrong. A good example being Chris Murphy, who in 2019 said Trump should be organizing like the removal of Maduro. He's way more dangerous. And then now today saying it's an illegal attack on Venezuela. But the big picture here is this. The concern I have always with regime change operations, intervention, even when it is in our backyard and smoothly done like this, is potential destabilization. So let me just say this right away because I know everyone is aching to hear my opinions. I talked about it in the morning show, but for those that are just watching IRL, this is, I'm lukewarm on this operation. I can very easily say a few things. Venezuela aggresses upon us all the time. They are in our backyard, right? We are operating in the Gulf of America. Sorry, Gulf of America.
Good call. Don't misgender it.
And Venezuela does as well. And Venezuela does manufacture drugs. Many of those drugs are sent to this country. And so the question is, the way I describe it is like this. If you had a neighbor across the street from you who kept shooting guns and had drug dealers coming in and out of his house, and it was attracting homeless people and criminals, and they started hanging out on your property, and you had to keep coming out and stopping people from breaking stuff on your property, at what point do you call the police and say, I want you to take that guy down by force?
Like immediately, really.
That's the question of war. So you've got these people that are saying, I thought you opposed intervention. Why would you support Venezuela? And it's like, well, hold on. You're talking about Afghanistan and Iraq and war with Iran. We're talking about 20,000 miles away. This is not something directly in our backyard. Sure, it's like saying I got a beef with the guy on the other side of town. And at a certain point, you do call the cops on him. But there's a big difference with Venezuela being in our backyard.
And there's a lot of difference between regime change and regime change war. When you look at what the economic hitman talks about, first you try and bribe the guy to get a regime change. If he won't take the money, then you go kidnap him or execute him and for the regime change. That fails, then you do a regime change war. So they seem to be at part two. They got him. They stole him, took him. And they're foisting a regime change, ideally with no proceeding war after the fact. But the thing is, man, don't celebrate day one after an operation and be like, he finally did it. They finally did regime change right. Like, bro, when was the last time you saw the United States do regime change right? When have you ever seen it happen?
We got more videos coming out of Venezuela. See, this is what I'm talking about, man. Check this out. Unidentified drones flew over the Miraflores Palace in central Caracas, leading security forces to open fire. This is why we're seeing those shots. Yeah. So what you were saying, civilian drones?
Yeah, so a lot of the local reporting in Venezuela is saying that it was a civilian drone that got too close to the palace, and the Venezuelans just unloaded on it. Because, I mean, tensions are high. Obviously, they're freaking out. They're in disarray. So.
See, if it was the United States, they would just turn Caracas off again.
So
that was an Israeli drone, I bet.
Oh, yeah, right. Here we go.
See, I got a video here. I don't know if it's real. I don't know if I want to play it or not, because it's just a video of people shooting.
Yeah.
And So I'm not going to pull this in. It says there's reported gunfire, according to Bloomberg, around Venezuela's capital in Caracas. And it shows a video of a guy. I don't want to play this because we don't know if it's real.
Yeah.
And it's from, it's from about an hour, almost an hour ago. So we can't confirm a lot of these things. What I will say is, as more information is starting to come in, the concern I have with regime change, and again, brilliant point, Ian. All of these people, like, Matt Walsh says, regime change, war is bad. Now we're talking about regime change without the war. And the war was always the biggest factor in it. I'm going to stress this. I'm still not a fan of us going and removing the government or whatever. I say I'm lukewarm on it. Iraq, Afghanistan, easily opposed to a great degree. War with Iran, absolutely not. Venezuela, I don't like it, but there's a big difference here, and it's not a war. However, the reason why I don't like it is very clear. People have said it's not Islamic tribesmen, and goat herders who are fighting with each other without a stable government. It's Venezuela, okay? It's the removal of one leader, and the government can continue. Yes, but there are narco gangs, there are cartels, and a power vacuum will create conflict. So what happens now if the U.S., they say, we're running the show there until they can have an election? Yeah, what happens if a cartel goes, now's our chance? The U.S. has not come in, there's no boots on the ground, and the government's is now in chaos. What's to stop criminal gangs to go in and try and start seizing power? What's to stop them from going and seizing industry? The U.S. sending boots on the ground? Great. Then we get the war portion of this. Or we ignore it and let criminals stage a coup or other factions. We tried it in Iran, and I know Iran is very different from the United States. From Venezuela. The point is, the last thing we want is destabilization in Venezuela. Because if you thought the narco gangs and the cartels were bad now, what happens when the whole country is destabilized? I know Maduro's a bad guy. Venezuela is better off without him, so long as they don't destabilize because of this.
Yeah, well, there's 2 points and then a third to address that. Is the first two, I think the reason why people are antsy about this but have come around on this specific intervention is because it's actually rare to see competency in these operations from the United States. Like, for what it's worth, we're not the best at running an empire. Like, if you compare us to like these historic empires, we're not very good at conducting affairs. And so people don't expect competency from these sorts of operations. The fact that this was done in 88 minutes, in and out, Maduro's in a black bag back in New York, Stewart, blows people's minds. And that's why people are like, wow. And it's like, actually, if this is how we're going to conduct these operations, I do support these because I didn't expect that. I did not factor that in. The second point being, the United States clearly communicated what its foreign policy goals were in the Western Hemisphere. And that's a breath of fresh air to people to say, we looked at the NSS, it was very clear what we wanted to do in our backyard, and then we went and did it. There was no inconsistency. What you saw with Libya, what you saw with Iraq, Afghanistan, you name it. It was ambiguous. There was not much communication to the American people. None of it really made a lot of sense geopolitically. The goals changed 3 years in. A lot of different moving parts. With this one, we literally said in the NSS, we are going to patrol our own neighborhood. And then that's exactly what happened. So no one felt like the blind was pulled down on them. And then to Tim's point about the destabilization, one thing that has to be factored in here is that the opposition party received like tremendous support in the last election. They're currently in exile, but presumably if they do return to Venezuela, which is probably going to happen, they will have pretty popular support within Venezuela. The military there probably come around. There's a lot of reports of a lot of these generals and officers in the military were never loyalists to Maduro in the first place. Yep. So it's very likely that if the United States does install the opposition, obviously that's been exiled, then it would probably wouldn't be too hard to wrangle the country back under control.
Here's what matters. The American economy is about to boom.
Yep.
We just got, billions?
I think 17 trillion.
Trillions of barrels of oil. Is that what it is?
Yep. I think it's 17 trillion.
Well,
it's
going
to take a while to get it out of the ground, but yeah.
You can make a lot of plastic with that. Yeah. And we like our plastic here in the United States.
So the price of Legos is going to go down.
Yeah.
Let's go.
A lot of smart kids.
This is the name of the game. I guarantee you, first of all, we're in Florida right now. You go out in Florida and ask someone what they think about Maduro, and you're going to find a lot of Venezuelan exiles who are going to be like, yes. We saw people driving around with the Venezuelan flag on it. They are happy Maduro is gone. They are here because Maduro burned their country down. Yeah. Not just him, Chavez, who then handed it to the bus driver Maduro, who chubbily ate an empanada live on TV while the nation was starving. These are not good people. But I go to a regular American anywhere, and I guarantee you, if I say, what do you think about Venezuela? They're going to be like, what? Yeah. I said, what do you think about Trump going in and removing the president of Venezuela? And they're going to be like, He did? Because I kid you not, that's what was happening yesterday when I said that guy was like, I don't watch the news. He's like, we did what in Venezuela? And I'm like, we conquered them in an hour. And he was like, oh. But I tell you this. What happens if I go to that person and say, hey, the milk, bread, and eggs are all $1 cheaper? They'll go, yeah, let's go. Your rent is going down. Awesome. Homes are cheaper. That's good news. How do you do it? We steal energy from other countries.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing, when Matt Walsh says, if the United States is going to go to another country and take their resources for us, then good. And I'm seeing these people go, so you're saying that might makes right? Let me just stress this for everybody. Might makes. That's it. Right is not an equation. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Your morality doesn't matter. When the barbarian kicks your door in, burns down your house, and steals your gold, you can complain all day and night about what was moral and what was unjust, but guess what? He did. China will do it. I love this viral clip. I don't know if you guys saw it, where a Venezuelan was like, to all the people claiming that they only went in and removed Maduro for oil, what did you think China and Iran were doing in our country? Mm-hmm. It's all for the oil. Mm-hmm. I'm not justifying it or saying it's good. I'm making the point that a praying mantis will chop off the head of another bug to eat it. And we don't go, it's evil. No, it's a bug preying upon something. I was thinking about this in terms of someone was talking to me about the threats of violence, and they said you must get a lot of enemies in your line of work. And I thought about it for a second, and I was like, I don't really care for the phrase enemies, to be honest. I mean, I'm not trying to be naive or anything. My point is, if a grizzly bear is walking through the forest and wants me to maul me to death, do I call it my enemy? No, we don't refer to it that way. Grizzly bear is going to do what grizzly bear does. Mm-hmm. Humans are going to do what humans do. And certainly I understand that the distinction of what enemy means. A person targeting me, they don't like my ideology. My point is, in the grand scale of the world, everyone's going to justify whatever they have to do to steal from everybody else. What we want on this planet is no more war. We don't want it. We want to work that away. The point, I suppose, is we're not there.
Yeah.
We are not at a point where we can go to China and say, guys, please stop engaging in warfare and illicit activities. Mm-hmm. Hey, Venezuela, we tried this with sanctions. I believe that the United States is arguably one of the most noble when it comes to war, despite all of its failings. And people are going to argue, how could you say that, Tim? We invaded Iraq and Afghanistan on lies. And everyone else does substantially worse. I'm not saying we are good. I'm saying the most noble, and that's a low bar. My point is, the first thing we did was we told Venezuela, stop giving oil to Iran, who is funding terrorists who are bombing things, in the Middle East and destabilizing the region. Now, I can make the argument, why are we involved in the Middle East? Fine, everybody can. But the point is, we first said, guys, please no. They told us to go F ourselves. We told Iran, if you're going to do dirty things, we're going to sanction you. I think sanctions are a good thing. We don't want to go to war. We don't want boots on the ground. So we say, we're not going to buy and trade with you. I think that's fair. I got no obligation to buy from you or trade with you. Mm-hmm. And I could say, everybody, stop trading with them. We don't want war. So we're going to do it this way. Well, Venezuela bypasses that. Sooner or later, you have to say, I am willing to assert authority or I'm not. If the United States is going to allow Venezuela to allow Iran to come in and build bases, create a hub, and China as well, and they're going to start selling massive amounts of oil to China to bypass our sanctions and our system and fund wars against us, it is not a simple, there's no reality, there's no zero-sum game. Sooner or later, China is going to make moves against us, and they already are, and they do it every single day. And the question is, what are our intentions? And my view is this. We don't want war, and we avoid it at all costs. Prepare for war. Because if you don't, China will take everything. Iran will take everything. So that's why when I see these people who are like, intervention is always bad no matter what. And I'm like, dude, sooner or later, something happens, whether you want it to or not. And you're in a fight, okay? Like I gave the analogy earlier about your neighbor with guns. I've been in situations in Chicago. I don't go to my neighbor's house and say, I'm going to fight you. No, but they're flinging dog crap on my lawn. Do I just sit there and say, well, I don't want to fight, so I'm going to let them do it? No, you say stop or else.
In fact, the French, right before World War II popped off, when the Germans invaded Poland and took Poland, the French had about 2 weeks to invade Germany and attack. They declared war and they just sat there because there's still this hope of like, maybe if we just appease, maybe they'll just stop. Bro, when there's a belligerent force on the move, they don't just stop. You can pray all you want, but at some point you need to stop the belligerents. Like, and that's, I'm not like qualifying the Venezuelan shit because I don't know. It is like a bastion of defense for our Gulf of America, protecting the Panama Canal. And it removes the influence of the Chinese in Venezuela, which also helps. So not only do you reduce,
but it's as simple as this: are these people opposed to this operation literally of the mindset that never, for any reason, should we be involved in a conflict outside of our borders?
No, they're purely anti-American. That's it. If America does it,
but
America's
Tucker
bad.
Carlson?
there might be.
No, not Tucker Carlson. I'm talking about the left.
Tucker's,
the leftists.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's been critical of the actions in Venezuela.
Pretty sure.
Megyn Kelly as well.
Well, I
don't think they hate America.
Yeah.
No, like I
So
said, the
my
leftists.
my point is, I don't want a war in Venezuela, and I don't want destabilization. However, that's why I say I'm lukewarm on this, because we didn't go to war. We removed the guy who was aggressing upon us in our backyard, and allowing our adversaries to operate in our hemisphere in our region. I mean, at a certain point, we have to say, guy, stop. Like, bro, if you keep throwing things at me, I'm gonna hit you.
Yep. Okay,
I don't want to hit you. This is the self-defense argument we always make on this show. You don't go out and just shoot a guy who's pissing you off. But when they when they actually threaten your life, they are walking onto your property. I talk about this in terms of like West Virginia versus, say, New Jersey. New Jersey says if a guy breaks in your house, you can't defend yourself. Okay, that's insane. Now, don't get me wrong. If you told me you were going to leave your house, walk to a neighbor's house because he was threatening you, and then you're going to shoot him, I'm going to say, yeah, that you're going to go to jail for that. But we're talking about with Venezuela, a guy aggressing upon us, and we're calling the cops on him, basically.
So what do you
we
think
didn't go
about-
to war. We didn't invade. We removed one guy because we tried sanctions and it didn't work.
Look,
I'm not saying it was the right move, and I think there are great risks here. I'm just saying this is not an easy circumstance like Afghanistan, where we can say sending thousands of troops for 20 years to this country made no sense. That's clear.
They specifically had DEA agents out, so that way it could be argued that it was a law enforcement operation.
Bro, but it's not about drugs.
No. But that was the pretense to get
that was
him.
for the courts.
But
I mean,
that was exactly
the
what
weapons
it
of mass destruction.
That's what all this is, and this is like what people need to understand about Trump and like why Trump is a departure from previous administrations is because Trump is a foreign policy realist fundamentally. Like he tweeted back in 2012, he was talking about the Iraq War, and he was like, "Why didn't we get the oil?" That was his question because he accurately views the United States as an empire. We're kind of post-republic at this point. We are an empire. So if we're going to conduct these sort of foreign policy interventions, like Tim's saying, a lot of people in America aren't keeping up with the geopolitical ramifications. They're just wondering what's in it for me.
It's
Cheap
legit.
gas, cheap oil.
If it's good for the United States, it's good.
But-
That's
but
the reality.
beyond
of the
that-
situation.
Short-term
But-
good might be a long-term bad. You never,
Well,
you
but
gotta,
beyond that, this is the important point regarding the Trump doctrine is that he fundamentally views every single country at the negotiating table as self-interested, and that is a massive departure from previous administrations. Previous administrations were like, we have these alliances, enemies here, alliances here. There's an axis of evil. This Trump treats every country the same. He says they're looking out for their people. They're self-interested. I'm going to behave self-interested. I'm going to look out for the interest of Americans, and that's huge
what
departure.
he should do.
I feel like the actions of the Democratic Party over the past several years was a lesson intentionally done to teach people like me why we have intervention. That is, Democrats willing to arrest Trump's lawyers in violation of the Constitution and the media willing to lie to cover it up makes me go, well, I guess if you're unwilling to defend your world and your views, people will aggress upon you in evil ways.
Yes.
Yep.
And the realization there, I'm half kidding, obviously. My point is we've always known that evil people will do evil things. And the argument often made, which we've talked about to a great extent on this show, is if we don't, China will. If not China, somebody else. Russia will. So the question is, do you want to be under the boot of a Chinese unipolar power? No, we don't. Well, here's the reality, guys. By all means, I can talk about the real problems with regime change, war, and intervention, and that is destabilization of regions, which screws us over. Like the rise of ISIS was not good for our interests, unless, of course, Obama was just doing it to screw with Syria and have a proxy war. But it looks like we continually, like the Mujahideen makes Al-Qaeda, we get 9/11. If you want to make the argument, none of it, if you believe that 9/11 was an inside job, then perhaps maybe your argument is the U.S. should stop and it'll all go away. I don't think so. I think if the U.S. backs down and lets Maduro and the Venezuelans do whatever they want, China bypasses everything that we've done. And the end result is this. It doesn't matter what you're for or against. The petrodollar falls and the American economy collapses. I'm not saying one thing is right or one thing is wrong. I'm asking you what you want. It's an honest question. Do you like the economy in the United States? Now, many people are going to say, no, it's bad. Okay, do you want it to get worse? Of course not. Well, the U.S. economy is propped up on the petrodollar and the U.S. stealing oil from other countries, and I'm saying that in a very crude manner. You want to get the specifics? The U.S. enforces the petrodollar, which makes other countries buy U.S. dollars to buy oil. The contract with the Saudis ended, and Trump needs to restart that. If we don't have it, you will come to realize the U.S. does not export enough to create a strong economy, and then you'll wonder why laptops cost $10,000. Your car will be $100,000.
The thing is, like, the leftists are like, oh, Trump's a war criminal, this is war crimes and all that stuff. It's international law. Well, honestly,
International law is
I don't
imaginary.
really give a shit about international law. If you can't enforce the law,
There is
then
no
there is no
international law.
law.
Yeah,
There-
who
there-
enforces
there is-
international law?
who-
Oh, the United
who's gonna
States.
do
Oh,
that?
sick. So
No,
we're
this
the
is-
international law. We did
Yeah.
it. It's legal.
So who cares?
You know what I love is the idea of a war crime.
Yeah, right.
You know, I love this because it's gentlemen in the battlefield agreeing not to kill each other in certain ways. The problem with the ideas of war crimes is it only constrains those who try to be noble.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying people should commit war crimes. I know the left will misconstrue what I'm saying. My point is, the United States takes very serious precautions against killing civilians. Not always. Obama doesn't get a lot of credit for that one. But our troops on the ground are constrained heavily when they can engage, who they can engage with.
Mm-hmm.
The enemy, not so much. The
They
enemy
walk
will
up
strap a
and blow
bomb to a
themselves up.
child and send the child to go blow you up.
Literally.
So, anyway,
I'm thinking-
let's jump to this next
Yeah,
portion of the
Dresden,
story.
Hold on,
the
one sec-
firebombing of Dresden, like all those
War is
civilians
war,
and
baby,
whatever,
and
yeah.
winning is winning.
Before we jump,
I
if
guess
it's
you don't want to
bad
destroy
for
the planet.
communists, it's good. Period. If it's bad
Okay,
for communists,
we
it's
should
should
good.
be
Guys-
kidnapping a bunch of communists.
That's not
Now-
logical.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.